Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pipeline, the show where I interview creative and innovative people, learn about some of their projects. On this episode, my guest is singer, songwriter, and musician Jason Ringenberg. Jason, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Scott. Pleasure to be here.
First off, I want to know how you and your family are doing in this time.
Well, we're sort of riding it out like everybody else in the world is, and we haven't been directly affected by the virus, but of course it's affected us in peripheral ways. But it's actually nice. We're spending our time together and getting to know each other again. It's nice.
Good. I have to mention we were chatting before the program, and I am just reminded about what a big influence you were on me and my views on performing. I had grown up watching bands, but it wasn't until I saw you and the Scorchers that it just blew me away, the energy that you brought to your performances, and it was amazing. How you grew up in Sheffield, Illinois. I can't imagine that, you were seeing shows in Chicago or St. Louis or Peoria or Springfield every weekend. Where'd you get your influence on how to perform and stage presence?
Well, growing up in Sheffield, you're right. There was some music people around, and records, and my older brothers and sisters were sort of 60s people, so they were always bringing home cool records, Dylan records and whatnot. So I got exposed to music, but I wasn't a lot of live music there. No, not clubs and things in that little small town. So when I went to college, first at Western and then at Southern Illinois University, that's when I first started going to clubs and hearing music live, and started seeing bands that were coming through and playing, the Ramones, Jerry Lee Lewis, folks like that I would see, and start getting my exposure to live music.
Well, now, is that when you started writing music, or had you been writing music when you were younger?
I had been writing music when I was home in Sheffield, but going to college it was a big rite of passage for me because it was such a small town, and going to college was like going to the real world.
Yeah.
It was like going to a big city. Like most people go to New York. I went to Macomb, Illinois, and that was a huge step. So that expanded my whole world a lot. All of a sudden, there's thousands of young people around.
No, I hear you. My first class at SIU, a lecture hall, was bigger, more people in that lecture hall than in my whole high school.
Right. Yeah.
It was a new experience.
Yep.
So this show is Pipeline, and I really have three main questions of my guests. And the first question is, what's a project you've worked on past 5-10 years that you're really proud of or found meaningful or challenging? Second question is, what are you working on now? And the third is, what's coming down the pipeline? What are you looking forward to as far as projects? So I'll start with the first one. What's a project in the last 5-10 years that you found very meaningful for you?
Well, that's an easy answer. That would be my newest record, which is called Stand Tall. I wrote that record when I was artist in residence at the Sequoia National Park in 2017, and then recorded it in our old haunts that we're talking about, Carbondale, Illinois, with some old buddies of mine that I used to play in bands with when I was at SIU, and used Mike Lascelles, the great producer engineer in Southern Illinois, and made a really cool record. It's called Stand Tall, and I'm enormously proud of it. Yeah,
I've heard a couple of the songs, and fascinating, just blow me away again, and very timely, it seemed. Were the social issues today, was this something even the title, Stand Tall, it's taking a stand. Were the social issues of today kind of whirling around in your head, or what were some of your influences for your songwriting for that album?
Well, certainly just being among the sequoia trees and in that beautiful landscape of the Sierra Nevada mountains. I was in a cabin at 10,000 feet. So, for a month. So that's going to put a big, throw a big spark into what you're doing. I wouldn't say it was about current sort of social issues, but it was a long range sort of record. I went back in history a lot, all the way back to even John the Baptist. So,
Oh yeah.
all the way back to that, and a Civil War draftee conscript who wants to get out of the war, about, John Muir, song about John Muir, song about the Ramones. It's a very long-term, sort of long-range record in terms of subject matter.
I guess, being in a cabin among the sequoias, did that prepare you for social isolation now, or were you completely alone, or how did you handle that?
My family came out for a while, and part of the time I was alone. But yeah, the cabin there was no power, no internet. And, I could walk outside and be up in the Sierra Nevada mountains just in a matter of minutes. So, yeah, I learned to be alone and enjoyed every second of it, I have to say.
Nice. So, the second question is a current project. What are you working on or have recently completed that, again, has a lot of meaning for you?
Well, again, it's the stand tall sort of experience goes on. We are now in process of releasing the demos I did for the record. I wrote these I did these little demos on my phone, and a lot of fans were interested in hearing how the song started. So we're releasing the demos on a CD. It'll come out in July.
Okay. And are you going to be? Did you do much touring to promote it?
I did. I toured all over America and Europe. And it was the first real tour I'd done in a long, long time. And I really enjoyed it. I was even north of the Arctic Circle twice actually.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. It was just going to all these cool places all over the world. It was wonderful.
And who's backing you up?
Most of the time I play solo, but sometimes I'll have a band with me.
Nice. And did you have, I know you're pretty big in Europe. I've seen some footage of concerts in England. I believe that you're pretty. People are very enthusiastic about you there. Do you have a favorite place outside of the U.S. that you like to play?
Well, I wouldn't know if it's any special country, but there's different cities that it seemed to take to me maybe more than others. Some favorites would be, Helsinki, Finland. Kilkenny, Ireland, Malmo, Sweden. There's a lot of different little places that I just love to go to. Oslo, Norway. That seem to bring out the best in me, and I seem to enjoy a whole lot.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges?
Sheffield, England, as a matter of fact.
Sheffield.
Sheffield, England. Yeah, there's a Sheffield, England. I always do a show there. That's always one of my favorite gigs that I do. It's a wonderful place called Greystones.
Yeah. Do you ever do shows near Sheffield, Illinois? What's the closest you get to playing near Sheffield, Illinois?
Yeah, good question. I was playing in Spain in 2002 or 3 with Mark Stewart and Stacey Earle, and as musicians always do, we talk about gigs, cool gigs you should do, share information. And they were saying, there's this place in Princeton, called the Princeton Coffee House that you need to play, Jason. You'll love it. So I was thinking, okay, Princeton, that's great. I mean, I was assuming they were meaning Princeton, New Jersey, at the university there, the Ivy League school. That's what I thought they meant. And so I Googled it, and it was like, oh my gosh, you're talking about Princeton, Illinois, the capital of my home county. So I'd never heard of this gig. So we got in contact with the people, and we did a record release show there this last May, a year ago this May, for the releasing the record. And that was my closest I'd played to Sheffield, although I had done a show at a little pub there once, a surprise show. But the first advertised show was in Princeton this last year. It was great. Sold out. as fate would have it, my aunt had passed away, and her memorial was that morning. So all my cousins were there, and they all came to the show, and they all, it would be so great. They all had the Jason Ringenberg T-shirts on in the audience, and it was a fantastic experience.
Yeah, I was going to ask if family were able to make it, but it sounds like they were. Now, had they seen you in person perform before?
Oh, yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
I've had a lot of, I've played so much over the years that, I wouldn't say all of them have, but many of them have.
Nice, nice. And for that album, it's available on iTunes or?
It's available everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere? Okay.
Now, the new record that we're doing is called The Roots of Stand Tall.
Oh, okay.
Make this distinction. Stand Tall is the original record that came out a year ago. That's anywhere you want to buy music, you can pick that up. The Roots of Stand Tall is the demos we did for the record, and that's coming out in July. That'll be just through my website. You get that through my website.
Oh, okay. And who'd you?
Fans only thing.
Okay, and who is helping you produce that?
Well, it was already, their demos were already done. I'm the producer. It was just me singing to my little iPhone. Yeah, it was demos, right?
So is that, speaking of demos, is that how you capture your ideas? Is it on the iPhone? Do you just strum your guitar and play with the iPhone and get it down?
Yeah, I try to keep the phone ready no matter where I am, because as you probably can relate as a songwriter as well, you can forget your ideas, when they happen, or you don't quite get them just right. Your initial inspiration is your best. You really got to capture that initial inspiration. So I always have a recording system ready. When we talk about the new project down the road, I just wrote one of the songs. I was actually sleeping, and I was hearing it sort of in a semi-state of sleep and dream, and I was hearing the song. And so I sort of woke up sort of halfway, and my phone was right there, and I hit record. I just started singing it. I was able to capture the whole song in its entirety. So you have to be ready always.
Yeah, and I remember something about Tom Waits saying, talking about he'll have an idea while he's driving, but he has nothing to write it down with, and it's gone. It's gone. Right. So
yeah, you can forget them very easily.
Yeah. So has technology changed the way you think about songwriting or your songwriting process?
I don't think so. No, I don't think technology has affected the way I write songs. No. I always had tape recorders with me, those little, miniature cassettes. I've always known how to record ideas quickly. So I wouldn't say it's changed it too much. No.
Oh, good.
It's changed the recording process in a big way, of course. Everybody uses digital technology now.
Right.
But songwriting, yeah, it's still, you got to get a gift from God. That's what it all boils down to. You can't control it. You can be open to it and make yourself open. You can be listening to a lot of music. You can be sort of receptive to ideas and things, but ultimately it's a gift. You either get the gift or you don't.
Yeah. And who are you listening to these days?
In quarantine now, in lockdown, not so much music, because our house is just full of people and I'm not traveling. So that's usually when I listen to music. So I can't really say I'm listening to a lot of music now. I'm playing a lot though. I play every day a lot, practicing for the new record, writing, recording songs, things.
Speaking of that, what's the upcoming project that you're looking forward to, or maybe already into?
Yeah, I'm working on a new record. The working title is called Rhinestone, and it's probably the most country record I've done yet. I've been writing songs for that for quite a while. Some of them I started at the Sequoia National Park, and been writing a few more here recently to get the meat of the record. So I'm working on that really hard. I'm going to record that this summer, and it'll come out in 2021. It's called Rhinestone.
And where are you recording that?
It'll be done in Nashville. This one's definitely going to be done in Nashville because it's very Nashville sort of influenced. One of the songs is called Nashville Without Rhinestones, for example. One of the songs is about the Freedom Riders, who a lot of them came from Nashville, and it deals with their their experiences leaving Nashville to go to Birmingham on those buses. So Nashville's all over this record. So yeah, I'm going to record it here.
And so it sounds like, a lot of your writing is influenced by history. Are you an avid history reader?
Absolutely. Yeah. I just finished the Chernoff Washington bio, which was fascinating. That was really fantastic. But yeah, I'm a history minor at SIU Carbondale. Yeah. I had a minor in history. I was really close to having a major in it, but I couldn't quite get some rigmarole right. But yeah, I read history. I study it. I'm interested in it. I tend to romanticize it when I write songs about it. Sort of take a lot of artistic license, when I write songs about historical subjects. But all my history songs are based in truth. There's always some sort of foundation of truth that it really happened.
Yeah. Do you prefer that type of songwriting of kind of a story with like a nugget of historical truth behind it?
Absolutely. Yeah. The older I get, the less I write about myself.
Really?
I mean, I'm writing whole records now that aren't about myself, or
Wow.
I used to write all about myself, when I was young, and the early Scorcher records are all, all about stuff going on with me, and as years have gone by, I write less and less about me and more about other people. And historical figures is always, that's just fair game. That's great stuff to write about.
Right. That's awesome. And that's just interesting that you mentioned this transition from being a young man and focusing on, yourself, and then as you mature as a songwriter and as a person, you're looking more at others and working that into your songwriting. Was this did you realize that was a transition, or one day you just realized, hey, I'm no longer writing about what I do? Was it?
Yeah, I think it's been a gradual process. In the early 2000s, I started realizing I was doing that, and it's natural. I mean, as you get older, you're just you're a lot less interesting. You're more boring. You're not. By our age now, you've kind of got it figured out how to keep things smooth and easy going, and your relationships are stable, and unless there's big health issues or financial problems, or life is pretty smooth these days. So no one wants to hear a song about how great you're doing. That doesn't sell. That doesn't work. So yeah, I started, but I think the last two solo records, I was very aware of it. I'm writing songs about other people. The whole record's really about other subjects.
Nice. Interesting.
And the most connection I'll get personally was there might be a connection of sorts, but they're really not about me anymore.
Do you have, as kind of a history buff, is there a topic or American history or world history or a certain writer or anything, or a historical figure that really piques your interest?
Yeah, there's several. Of course, as an American history is my strong point. But I know quite a bit about some European history. It really surprises Europeans when I'm at a show, and I'll tell a story about one of their national figures. For example, when I played in Norway last year, I told these stories about Fridtjof Nansen, who was this Renaissance man from the early 20th century. He helped found the modern Norway. He helped found modern nerve biology. He was the first person to ski across Greenland, the first person to ski across northern Norway. He tried to float a boat across the North Pole, frozen in the ice. He was just this fantastically fascinating guy. But he was, it was in this little backwater country. Norway wasn't really even a country then. It was sort of a province of Sweden. So Nansen never got the credit he deserved. Because he wasn't from Great Britain or America or Germany, one of the great powers, quote unquote. So when I tell these Nansen stories, I would even sometimes imitate Nansen's diaries. I would sort of get into his character and tell these stories about when he was trying to float the boat, locked in ice over the North Pole, and what he went through. and it just blew their minds because I can guarantee there wasn't another American that they would probably have ever met that knew about Fridtjof Nansen. You know?
That's amazing.
Yeah, and the Finland stories, in World War II, it was such an incredibly deep, complex political situation. They were invaded by the Soviet Union. They were co-belligerents with Germany, but they weren't into Nazism. They were a democracy. It was so fascinating. They actually, fought off the Soviet Union for several months when the Soviet Union invaded them. It's called the Winter War.
Wow.
And I'll tell stories about that when I'm in Finland, and they'll say, "You know more about our history than we do." So I love doing things like that. I just love anything historical. It's going to get my interest wherever I am. If I'm in some strange country, I'll dig into what's happened there, into the history of it as best I can.
That's cool. Glad you're able to do that.
But to answer your question, that's a long story. My most fascinating person would be Abraham Lincoln. Yeah.
Yeah.
That never ever changes. Lincoln, next to Jesus Christ, was, in my opinion, the greatest human being ever.
Yeah.
The most interesting, the most, changed the world completely. I think more than any human being that ever walked the earth. I think I can make that solid argument. I'm sure I'll open myself up to all kinds of arguments now from all kinds of people, but I really feel that way. So Abraham Lincoln, yeah. Have you been native of Illinois? I could, relate.
Yeah, I was going to ask, have you been to the Lincoln, the new Lincoln Museum in Springfield?
Oh yes, absolutely. I've been several times to Springfield over the years and done all the little spots. I mean, Lincoln spoke in Kewanee, Illinois, my birthplace, in Henry County. He spoke there, he hung out in Princeton, Illinois a lot, the capital of Bureau County. He had friends, the Lovejoys, ran a underground railroad station in Princeton, Illinois. So I remember seeing that as a grade school student. We'd go and tour it for a class trip. And, even at that age, I was in junior high, I think, and I was like, wow, this Lincoln guy, he must have been just incredibly fascinating, and he was here in Princeton, It's cool to walk the steps that Lincoln walked. It was right there, right there where I grew up.
Yeah, I have not been to the museum in Springfield yet. I've been, so many friends have and have said it's amazing. I want to get back there. At SIU, we have the tradition of rubbing Lincoln's statue's nose in Morris Library. That still goes on. And other than that, my little hometown of Highland, Illinois, I grew up hearing the story that he had stayed in a particular house in Highland, but I don't think there's any evidence of that. So who knows if he passed through Highland or not. But
how big is Highland? How many people?
About 8,000.
About 8,000.
It's pretty small. It's basically a rural farm community, probably like Sheffield.
Well, that's amazing that they haven't. The historical society hasn't made something out of that. Lincoln slept here.
Yeah, exactly.
That's strange.
But our big claim to fame was Louis Latzer, who was the founder of Pet Milk, condensed milk. I don't know if you remember that, but
wow, yeah, sure.
They if you would take Interstate 70 into St. Louis many years ago, the first big building you would see on the north side of the highway was the Pet Milk company, and it was founded in Highland. The library is named, the little library in Highland is named after the Latzers. They donated it. That's our big claim to fame.
Well, that is a pretty, that's all over the world.
Yeah. So the new album is Rhinestone?
Rhinestone.
Rhinestone, okay.
On words there, yeah. There's a Nashville double entendre there. Rhinestoned. Yeah.
Rhinestoned. And that is coming out when?
That'll come out in 2021. There's not a release date yet for it.
Okay, and once this whole thing blows over, you plan to tour, promote it?
I hope so, yeah, if there's touring to do. If it can be done. Yeah. No one really knows what's going to happen moving forward, but, well, I'm going to release the record, I know that.
Awesome. And currently, fans can get to your website and check out what you're up to and download merchandise and music.
That's right, jasonringenberg.com. I have a Facebook page as well, Twitter account, all that stuff.
Awesome. Well, Jason, thank you so much. It's been great catching up with you, hearing about your projects. I'm so glad you and your family are safe and doing well. Really appreciate you being on the program.
It's my pleasure, Scott. Good talking to an old Illinois boy.
All right. Take care, my friend.